2. Hi, my name is Bill DeYoung. I am senior writer and editor for the St. Pete Catalyst. What that really means is I'm a little taller than everybody else. You're watching the Catalyst Sessions. Today, my guest is La Lucha. They were here 4 months ago. Guys, I just realized it was May 7th.
Wow.
And obviously a lot's changed for you, for me, for us, for all of us in those 4 months. So we're happy to check in with our favorite jazz trio again. We're looking at Mark Feinman up there in the corner, and John O'Leary and Alejandro Arenas. And let's start off with something really cool. Alejandro, what you got for us?
So one of the things that we've been doing during these times, since we can't really play live gigs to people, is trying to document what we do. So we set up a few cameras, and we were able to get to the Museum of Fine Arts in St. Petersburg and do a little performance video. We had no audience, just the three of us, and if you listen closely, there's also somebody operating some machine outside.
It adds to the ambiance, right?
Yes, exactly. So he was interacting with John's piano solo at the end. But we'll play this little clip. It's a song from our new album. Everybody Wants to Rule the World is the name of the album. And the name of this song is a song that Mark wrote, and it's entitled 1+2. So here it is. I'll try to share this the best that I can. Here we go.
La Lucha. John, I was watching you while that was on there, just kind of moving your head, just and listening to what you were playing. That's so beautiful. That's a tune from Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Is that right?
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
and that's one of Mark's songs. Did I hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, so explain it to me, a non-musician or a guy who plays a few chords on the guitar, right? That's as far as I go. You're a drummer. I wouldn't think of the drummer as someone like as a melodist of saying, here's how this goes. Are you a man of many talents? I mean, I used to watch somebody like Jimmy Cobb or drummers who wrote music and with singers and stuff, and like, how did you put that together? Let me put it that way. What's the process for that?
Yeah, I didn't start on the drum set. It's just my preferred instrument now, because it makes me the most rich person in the world.
Of course.
And no,
you get all the girls too. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I started on the guitar as a musician, and I had a piano at home, and I was not trained on the piano. My sister is a wonderful classical pianist, but I just messed around, and I think that's kind of the best thing. And that's kind of what I did with any instrument that I could get a hold of. If it was a bass, I would borrow a bass. I would learn to play it. I learned to play the piano, and then as I became more serious in playing music, I got really interested in composing, just kind of figuring out what sounds good, what chords feel good together. And then when I went to college, these gentlemen, they were playing some, serious harmony, and they were arranging music in such an advanced way that I just wanted to step that up. It was in a good sense, peer competition, which is where they taught me and I learned how to progress forward. And I was always interested in how chords sounded together, and just, I didn't come from a really theoretical based training. So the interesting thing with me as a drummer, not playing harmony consistently on gigs or hearing it as clear, was I could explore it in my own way. So I was, maybe figuring out a progression that I thought sounded really hip, and it took me 6 hours to work on. And then John and Al would be like, "Oh yeah, that's like an Al Green song. It goes like this." But more than where I put my hands down, it's all about the ear. I've always been singing melodies. I always sing little rhythms, and I put melodies or lyrics to them. And I trust my ear more than I would, is the theory correct? And so with a song like this, it was something that I sang into a phone, and then I tried to place a little bass, harmony underneath it. And then I would go bring it to the guys, and they'd say, "Hey, maybe this works really well. Let's add this kind of extension onto the chord." And so, I really just go with what my ear is doing.
Well, that's collaboration in the truest sense, though, isn't it? Because you're all going in the same direction anyway. Guys, what do you think of this? What can we do with this? Where can we take it? Does it change that song? I'll ask all of you, or any others, in live performance. Once you've recorded something, how firm are you with that arrangement? We're not, obviously people solo and things go in different directions, but because you know each other musically so well, how do things change when you take them out live?
They change quite a bit. I mean, one of the things that with this album in particular is, I think, is the first album that we recorded that we didn't really spend a lot of time with the music before actually recording it. Because what's happened to us in the past is that we've gone to record something and we listen to it, it's like, okay, the composition's there, everything's but not as compelling. And we notice as we play it live, things just shift, and like you mentioned, we know each other so well. Like sometimes I'll start throwing some different roots, and John has a really quick ear, so he'll immediately look at me like, "Oh yeah, let's do this chord," and or vice versa. So we're as we get comfortable with the music, we're always game to let it go where it wants to go. Sometimes we'll play it safe depending on the situation, but for the most part, that's one of the things that we love about doing with this music, is just letting it go places. So it's funny because sometimes when we play, sometimes we chart the music very specifically, not so much anymore, but we used to. And years later we would play a gig with somebody, like a horn player sitting in or something like that, and it was just a scramble to try to fix the chart because we had added so many things had changed that it always just kind of became like almost like a completely different arrangement at that point. So yes, it changes for sure.
But isn't that also one of the sort of charms of playing jazz, that when you play, like I want to ask you about this thing you just did with Jeremy Carter and James Suggs. When horn players or whoever's going to come in, if they're good, and obviously they're going to be good, they can pretty much figure it out or follow you. Isn't that the case?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
It depends on, the songs. If it's something that is within reason, it's easy to follow. Sometimes, there was a time where we were like getting together every week and playing through our music, and it evolved, and it wasn't something that you could just hear it once and play back. We needed to and so it really depends on what it is, but there is one advantage of it is that the three of us can adapt to other people really quickly. And so for us, it's really easy to say, hey, somebody can bring an arrangement to us or a piece of music and say, hey, this is something the three of us, we have shared language that we can easily add to a piece of music.
Shared language. Yeah. That makes me think that in a way, when the three of you are playing together, you're one musician. I mean, do you ever think of it that way? Like that that we've talked about before, that really good musicians have together. As I was saying there, I kind of know how John's going to react to this if I'm going to play this.
Totally.
Do you all feel that way? That like, yeah, we're a unit, Yeah. Let me talk to you about, you did this Palladium Presents last week, which we've written about here at the Catalyst with James Suggs on trumpet and the great Jeremy Carter playing saxophone. Tell me about that, guys. What was that experience like to, again, sort of like the thing we just watched, to play with no audience? Yeah, describe the experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, playing with James, James is kind of an extension of La Lucha at this point. He's one of those guys that we just kind of what John, that we have that connection with, that we just take a left and he knows to take a left with us, and so all that stuff. So, and Jeremy and James play so well together. They have that connection, but at the horn level. So it's really cool because they can play off of each other really well. And so, we've played with Jeremy. We've played more with James, but we've played with Jeremy a bunch too. Which actually, there's going to be a concert that we play with him airing at WSF this Friday. There was a Carter plays Coltrane, so it was all Coltrane stuff, but which was actually a really good example of that, because we're taking Coltrane's tunes, but we're taking them in so many different places. And I remember that was one of the most cathartic experiences in a while. So, with this thing that we did at the Palladium, it was much more contained in the sense of, we're playing standards and stuff that we're all familiar with, and we hadn't played together in a while. So it was really cool to just get on a stage and make sound with people that you love and whose musicianship is also compatible with what we all do.
Yeah, John had mentioned that we would get together regularly every week and play, and what you would see live is kind of the culmination of those rehearsals and getting to know each other and the music. But what's interesting right now is that we're not getting together regularly and weekly or monthly. So what you're seeing and hearing in this, and we would play for an audience and get the energy, but now what you're seeing is this kind of like, we're all in our own spaces, and when we do play, it really is coming from a place of like heart and like passion. So even though there's no audience, which we really, really miss, we have each other, and, we are each other's audiences, in addition to like the few camera people in the room that are masked. But yeah, it really is coming from a deeper sense of, exploration of like, we need to just play. We need to like let out what it is, what we haven't done.
It's much more spontaneous in that sense, because we always, you always try to play from the heart, but given a chance, so it passes so much time has passed since we were able to play, then you're kind of like putting it all on the line, not like, oh, tomorrow we have another gig, we can do it again tomorrow. No, this time's like, oh, this hasn't happened in a while, may not happen for a while, let's just go for it.
Very special. John, let me ask you the difference between live performance and recording. John is still there, right? I can't.
I'm here.
I can't. Oh, there you go. I can't see everybody there. I should flip that thing up. Live performance without an audience, that's got to be strange. And
like
you guys were just saying, there's no feedback from anybody or from the audience.
Yeah, in a sense, we're playing for each other. It's kind of what we've always done. Is what always made La Lucha special, because we were like, we are brothers, and we're gonna play for each other at the very least, and in a way we have like a sense of duty to practice and to be the best possible that we can for each other, because it's like a sense of duty for the band and for my brothers, so in that way there's always something on the line. I don't want to disappoint them, I always feel like I have skin in the game if I'm playing with them. And so in that way, there's also like being in a recording studio is a really special thing. It's not something that I do often. And when I do, it's something that I treasure. I love the experience of being in the studio and recording, playing a beautiful instrument, and then going back and listening to what you just recorded. And then, I don't know, like studios can be dry. And I can imagine when somebody is a studio musician and they do that every week, I can see how having an audience can feel. Like, you know, the grass is always greener on the other side. But when you never get to go to the studio, and here you have this beautiful opportunity to like work with these amazing musicians and engineers, and look at this mic and how it works and where it goes, and you're playing this beautiful instrument that you wouldn't have access to all the time. And then, hey, by the way, whatever you play is going to be available forever. Once it's on the internet, it will never disappear. And so, yeah, I hope you came prepared.
I used to hear, you know, I would read that, say, Miles would take the group into, you know, Columbia Studio B in New York or whatever it was, and they would record, you know, one of the tracks for Kind of Blue or Sketches of Spain or something. They'd do it maybe twice, and that was it. You know, I always thought, and this is where my lack of really understanding how jazz, I don't want to say works, because it's not work, as we know, but how it's formed and created, I guess.
Yeah.
Because my idea of a recording studio comes from pop and rock and roll and all the stuff that I'm familiar with, where you work on it, you know. But it seems to me that Miles would come in, count it off, they'd play it, maybe do another take, and then move on. And
exactly.
You take one of the takes and put that on the record. Is that the way it works with you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For us, that was something that Ken Peplowski on this last album really focused on. You know, we asked him, we said, like, basically he just said, don't, you know, what you guys have is special, and don't overthink what it is that you're doing. You know, usually the first or second take is the best take.
There it is, right there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you know, even something that kind of goes into the pop world a little bit. Bruce Sweeten, I think I'm mispronouncing his name, but he was an engineer in a lot of the Michael Jackson sections.
Okay.
You know, which were heavily produced and everything. And he said that even from his perspective, he would do like hundreds of mixes, and he would always go back to the first or second mix. Right. So it's kind of, in a way, the way that translates to the way we work as musicians, that our ears are more attentive, our ears are open at that moment, and you have that edge, you have that moment where you're kind of like, that energy just comes out, kind of similar to not doing a gig for a while and going back to it. You know, if you channel that energy correctly, you can do wonderful things. And I wish a lot of musicians would do that more in the studio, to be honest, because there's some records nowadays that, you know, if you have the money, you can spend a lot of time in the studio, and they're very sterile, you know.
Yeah. You know, I spent some time with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers over the years, a few years ago, and I remember always hearing that usually they would, you know, overdubs and stuff is something else, but, you know, with those guys, but the band would play live in the studio. Usually the lead vocal was done live too, and usually it was in the first couple takes. You know, we can do it 10 times, but we're usually, like you say, go back to one of the early ones, because that's where the inspiration was. That's where the heart was. I just got a 10-minute notice from Zoom here, which I don't get that often, so I must have triggered something or other. Before we have to go, I wanted to ask you guys specifically about the 4 months that have elapsed since we last spoke. You put the record out, but you weren't able to tour it, which is an essential part of making a record, right? So what have you guys been doing for the last 4 months, and how have you, I will ask you individually, take your turns here, if you will, how you've been dealing with this, you know, now, well, the thing is 6 months now, but it's been a while. What have you been up to?
Yeah.
You know?
So we've been trying to promote the album online as much as possible. We have we are really fortunate that the album made it to radio, and we're on jazz and NPR stations throughout the world. It's charting in different places right now on the Jazz Week charts, which is the main charts for jazz. I think I don't know what it is today, if it's come out, but it was number
19. It just came out. 19.
Okay, number 19 today on Jazz Week. And so we've been kind of making rounds, doing interviews, and just trying to get people to be interested in the music by putting out some videos, sharing some of the clips of the music. But more interestingly, we actually did just go into the studio in July safely and recorded another album. And this is the maybe second time we've mentioned this ever. So this is actually maybe the real first time we've mentioned this in an interview. We have a new album coming out in early November. It's a holiday record called New Holiday Classics, and it also features saxophonist, clarinetist, and vocalist Adrian Cunningham. And it's all original music written specifically for the kind of holiday and New Year season.
Wow.
And
you heard it here
we're
first,
also featuring a lot of guest artists. So it was recorded featuring another singer, Jameson Lindenberg, Claire D, who's in San Francisco, a Chilean singer and guitarist named Camila Mesa, and we have a string quartet of musicians from around the Tampa Bay area that play in the Florida Orchestra, the Sarasota Philharmonic, and Naples Orchestra. And so Dick Hyman, the NEA jazz master, arranged a song on the record for us, but it's all original music featuring us and Adrian Cunningham. And we recorded this throughout the whole world. We had people in Wyoming and Barcelona, in New York, and we were distanced in a room, and we got everybody in on separate days to do their parts. So that's what we've been kind of working on.
And I will mention this because this is kind of how we started a little bit of the interview, because all of the music was actually written by Mark and Gloria, his wife, who is a wonderful writer, musician. And so they put together, that's something they focused on at the beginning. We almost couldn't reach Mark because, they have a not newborn baby, a 1-year-old at home. And anytime they had a chance to go, the baby was sleeping, they were writing music. And And, we knew a few of the songs that Mark had written in kind of some earlier versions. And we always told Mark, like, man, you should do something with this. So this was, La Lucha was involved, very heavily involved in the arranging process. And kind of very much the same way that we talked about the beginning. Mark had kind of the complete songs, came up to John and I. We, put our 2 cents and we recorded it live, the 3 of us live, and then everything else was kind of overdubbed on top of that. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to be able to have that in the middle of these crazy times.
So even in the middle, this is where this is headed. I can see even in the middle of these crazy times, you found a way to be creative.
Absolutely.
Where were you guys? Where did you record the La Lucha parts?
We were at Clear Track Studios in Clearwater.
In Clearwater.
In Clearwater, and the wonderful engineer Bill Moss, who also engineered our last record, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Okay. He came in here, and he's just incredible. He's the fourth La Luchan. And no,
he's
that
awesome.
Up?
That's
he's
good.
Really, yeah. I was thinking the fifth Beatle. I'm like, that sounds stupid, but. But yeah, so we've all been doing different things here and there, just trying to stay creative. And John has a very special project coming up, right, John?
I do. I haven't made a formal announcement yet, but I am working on a project that I will. I'm not ready to talk about yet, but I am doing a solo piano record for Arbors. That I'm super excited to be working on, and I'll have some guests for some duets, and I'll be recording in December.
And part of that, just to mention that this was part of the John at the beginning of the pandemic started putting some solo piano things on Facebook, on social media, and that was partially what started this, right, Johnny?
I mean, it was like, oh, by the way, you should play some solo piano for us. I was like, oh, I would love to. Thank you. So, yeah.
Silver lining. That's great. I mean, that's something that came out of this. Wow, two fabulous new projects.
I think that, one of the best ways to deal with adversity is to keep your eyes on the prize, to be focused that, if you have depth perception, you look, in front of you and you know where you're going and what's right here may be blurry and maybe difficult at times, but you never lose focus of what's in the distance. And it's hard to do, but it's, for us, it's, you know, that's why I feel like I'm one of the luckiest people on earth, because I have these two guys to help me keep motivated, to practice, to keep going, and to never, you know, help me lose focus of what's really important.
Well, John, this is brilliant. We are totally out of time. John O'Leary, Alejandro Arenas, and Mark Feinman. This is La Lucha. Be looking for you guys. We'll be looking for that Palladium Presents thing to come up. And everybody wants to rule the world, number 19 on the jazz charts this week. Got a holiday album coming out, John's new project, which we will check in about again. We'll see you guys really, really soon. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us, Bill.
Having us, Bill.
Cheers.